motivation with Amazon Music.
You're still in bed? Didn't you go running?
Oh, I overslept. I'll go tomorrow. I'm getting in the shower.
Alexa, set an alarm for 5 a.m. tomorrow to Hard Rock Music.
Okay, I'm up.
The right song exactly when you need it. Amazon Music, the simplest way to listen to the music you love. New customers start your 30-day free trial at amazonmusic.com. Renews automatically, cancel anytime.
So tonight we'll be discussing a recent book that came out, I think, between 2016 and 2017, which is He-Man and the Thundercats. Is that the title? What is it? Or is it just He-Man Thundercats?
It's just He-Man Thundercats.
He-Man Thundercats. Oh, shut up, Ronnie. I ask a question.
Shut up.
I ask a question related to maybe I don't get the title right. That don't matter. I'll fix it in post.
This is a very contentious podcast, and I feel like it's my fault.
You have brought negative vibes into this
Negativity. So okay, this was a fun one. First off, two of our cartoons from our past coming together in one book. We've talked about crossovers before here on the Source Material podcast.
I'll tell you right now, He-Man and Thundercats were close to the Transformers in the top of my list.
When you're talking about toys, or are you talking about like cartoons? Cartoons, is that what you're talking about?
Cartoons.
Gotcha.
Dude,
gotcha.
And toys. I had a ton of He-Man figures. I think of I don't think I had any Thundercats, but I loved the cartoon. I had tons of He-Man toys, and I had Castle Grayskull. I had some G.I. Joes, but not a lot, and I had like 3 Transformers. But I love the TV show.
Heck yeah! Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's do the proper introductions. That right there was Mark Radulich.
Fucking brunch, y'all.
That's Brunch Radulich right there. Mark Brunchelich.
And we broke Ronnie.
Oh, you broke me a long time ago.
Ronnie Adams. So, Ronnie, me and you have done podcasts in the past where we've talked about both of these franchises, specifically He-Man for sure. So, give us your thoughts on the He-Man franchise first, and then move to Thundercats, and tell me how it all came about in little Ronnie Adams' life.
He-Man was definitely my jam back in the day. We talk about, G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe was amazing. I loved G.I. Joe, but I had more He-Man figures than I could probably count at this point. My parents kept me swimming in them. I had Castle Grayskull, I had Snake Mountain, I had Hordak's Pit, Hordak's pit. Didn't have the slime pit because my mom didn't like slime. She didn't want it around the house.
She's smart.
Yeah. I realize that now, but back then she was just horrible because I wanted the slime pit. I watched the cartoon every chance I could get. I remember, my mom buying He-Man and Skeletor for me so I could have the good guy and the bad guy.
Heck yeah.
And I remember sitting at brunch with her. And I'm kidding.
BS.
Yeah. But no, I remember when I first got them, she let me take them to church. And I remember sitting in the front pew with her and my grandmother and having these He-Man toys and all their accessories in Ziploc baggies so I wouldn't lose them.
Awesome.
And so it was, He-Man was my jam.
Did you make them bow their heads to pray?
Shoot, I don't even remember prayer. I was playing He-Man. I was making forts out of hymnals.
Nice.
There you go. Nothing like having a life and death struggle between He-Man and Skeletor on the top of a church pew.
Right. I mean, that was the stuff, dude.
Heck yeah.
So, and then I watched Thundercats, but I didn't own many toys. I just owned Lion-O that I remember.
Did you see much of them when you were in stores? I mean, was that something you saw a lot of?
Yeah. It was just one of those things where my mom was one of those, like, I don't know if it was like too expensive or and I just didn't know it or what. Which I guess it costs about the same as a GI Joe figure, or not GI Joe, but a He-Man figure. But I think it was because I had so much invested already in He-Man. She didn't feel like doing a new toy. Getting into a new toy line, and I had a lot invested in GI Joe too. Those were the two go-tos back in, when I was a kid. But I remember getting Lion-O because he came with the glove. Can't remember what it's called now, the Sword of Omens. But didn't have the dagger Sword of Omens, just the big one.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I had the freaking actual toy Sword of Omens. And I would run around the horse, and you press a button and the Thundercat symbol would light up.
Nice.
I remember playing with that a lot when I was a kid. Setting up a cardboard box in the middle of the living room and beating the snot out of it with it. And my mom was like, "What are you? Go outside. You're weird." I'm like, "Okay." But
were you a toy mixer? Would you have like Lion-O hang out with He-Man? Or
you know how I feel about that?
Oh, I think I remember you kind of talking about how they shouldn't mix, but
it's the same as genres, man. Stop, Mark.
We can't mix the races of toys.
They're toys. They're not races.
So what did Lion-O do then? You got a Lion-O. He just sat there and watched like you play with He-Man, and I mean,
I'm sure I mixed them. I'm sure I did.
Okay, I was going to say you got to give him a purpose at least. He can't just sit on the shelf. There's no way I would get a Lion-O and just let him sit around.
Ronnie separate but equal toy room.
Got separate bathrooms.
Mark, I know you had a rough evening, so I'm letting you slide.
Separate toy boxes. All right. So anything else, Ronnie?
One of the toy boxes was for Thundercats only.
It's this little shoebox. Throw Lion-O in there. Never comes out.
Why does Lion-O have to drink from a separate water fountain than He-Man? Don't worry about it.
All right, now hold on, Mark. Okay, tell us about
Mark.
Tell us about He-Man. Tell us about Thundercats in your life, everybody.
I had a bunch of He-Man. You know what was funny about me and my He-Man collection? So I probably got into wrestling at about 5 years old. It was probably around the same time that I had a bunch of He-Men, and it wasn't long with the bodies that they had on them. It wasn't long before I had the He-Men wrestling each other.
Yeah,
they were absolutely. It was the He-Man Championship Wrestling.
Well, there were plenty of body slams to be had with those figures.
Oh yeah, I also remember everything was connected by rubber bands, and when those rubber bands were not always the sturdiest thing. I definitely had
when they went, then everything went.
Yeah, there was a bunch of legless He-Men. But I had a bunch of the He-Man figures. Absolutely had He-Man. I had Cringer. I had or Battlecat. I had Skeletor. I had his panther that he rode. I didn't have Teela or Evil Lynn because I wasn't a fucking girl.
Listen, you can't complete the whole set unless you have Evil Lynn and Teela. And right. I had Sorceress too. So suck it.
Yeah, go play with Barbies. I know, and I'm sitting here and I say that, and I was just telling somebody I totally played with Barbies. I had all girl cousins. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah, you had a choice.
I had Castle Grayskull.
Yeah.
I remember having like Beastman and Many Faces, Man at Arms. I had all those things, and I absolutely mixed all the toys. Like I had here's the thing: I had a lot of incomplete sets of things, so I just decided that whatever. Like I remember I had this set piece from Return of the Jedi, and it was like the droid slave factory. Remember this? You know, where the one
I do.
Where the one like white robot is branding the black. I swear to God, I'm not doing a bit now. But that's
no.
This really happens.
It doesn't. It's not as bad as Mark makes it out to be, but yes, because the robot in the movie is silver.
Is it okay? The box robot. Well, I thought it had like silver like coil legs. In any case, it's like branding his feet. Well, I had that.
No, that robot, the branded robot, was black.
Yeah,
but the brander.
Okay, was
silver.
Okay, I thought he was white. In any case, So I had that play set, and I remember to me it didn't look like a robot factory; it looked like a lab. So I remember calling it. It was the Sky Lab, and the Sky Lab was the most powerful scientific science creating mechanism in all the universe. And all the bad guys that I had were fighting each other and everybody else for it, and it was the good guys' job to defend it. I'm pitching you my story ideas from when I was a child.
Yep. We've all had them.
So yeah, and so it was always fighting over the Skylab. That's what everything was always about, and setting up these gigantic battles with all my He-Man and everything. And their base was Castle Grayskull because that was like the biggest thing that I owned. I wasn't one of those rich kids who had the Terradome or the aircraft carrier. The biggest thing I owned was Castle Grayskull, which was a cool ass fucking toy, by the way. I did not have the Snake Pit though, or any of the other things that came with the big play sets that came with He-Man. But I love that cartoon, and I remember a couple of years ago when it was on Netflix, I actually sat my kids down, and I remember we spent an entire weekend just binge watching He-Man. My kids loved it. They just thought it was the best.
I want to ask you a question then. Was it better left in your past if your kids didn't enjoy it?
I am Adam.
Yeah.
It's a little stilted, a little more stilted than when I remember it.
We were just talking about it, and I was like, you got a full on Clark Kent situation going on here. With Prince Adam and He-Man. There's no way people don't realize that that's He-Man.
That's the thing. Like, at least Clark Kent had the audacity to put on glasses and
this guy did nothing but change his shirt.
He changed his shirt.
Essentially, he
put a shirt on.
He took off his gay Prince outfit and put on like assless chaps and some sort of.
He had a loincloth, sir. A loincloth and a thin strips of metal for armor.
Whatever. Okay,
and
that's armor, all right. It's armor to stick the dollars.
And fur boots.
It was a bandolier.
I'm not helping this at all.
He was wearing thin strips of leather. Wait a minute. And fur boots. Wait a minute. And a tiny, itty bitty polka dot bikini.
Right.
No, He-Man wasn't gay at all. But dude, I did not make that connection as a kid. As a kid, he just, he looked like a powerful barbarian type, and I never questioned the whole stupid secret identity thing. Like I didn't care. As an adult watching it backwards, I'm like, wow, this show is dumb as shit. But my kids loved it.
You didn't have a whole lot of Thundercats?
No, I don't think I had any Thundercats.
Okay. All right. Well,
but I was not an artist. I'm to this day still not an artist. Still can't draw for shit. But my favorite thing to try and draw was the Sword of Omen.
Oh yeah. You gotta like that.
That was a cool sword, man.
Yep. Me and my friends who used to practice drawing the Sword of Omen in school when we should have been focusing on work, and now I'm a social worker.
For myself, I have more of a connection with He-Man when it comes to how much time I spent watching the cartoon. I had a lot more figures for that. I can remember a few times that I got He-Man toys. One was, I don't know who got it for me. I don't know if it was my grandma or if it was my mom, but I remember being at my grandma's and getting, I think it was Manny Faces, and reading the comic that came along with the toy, which was pretty cool and a great marketing ploy as well. Was Snake Mountain the one with the microphone?
Yes.
Okay. So I did have Snake Mountain, had the microphone.
Way too excited for that.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's all right. Woo! So I had Snake Mountain. I think I might have got the slime pit at one point, and you tilted the thing down and the slime went down on top of the He-Man.
I didn't have that.
I couldn't stand the figures. I was more into G.I. Joe. As much as I liked looking at the figures and they look cool, they were just, it all came down to points of articulation for me.
I get that.
Okay.
I really do. And I get that.
I don't understand. What do you mean by points of articulation?
Points of articulation
means He-Man had none.
No, I understand what the phrase means.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why you gave a shit.
If they're going to fight, they're going to throw some kicks.
We'd use our figures for wrestling, okay? A DDT with a G.I. Joe is pulled off a lot better and it looks a lot smoother than you trying to put a Skeletor's head in between He-Man's unflexible arm and trying to pull off a DDT.
I understand what you're saying, but the DDT is the wrong move to try to prove your point.
Welcome to the Body Slam League, ladies and gentlemen. That's all we do here. It's He-Man Body Slam.
Because the DDT starts with a headlock, a reverse headlock, which you can do with a He-Man because their arms were like pre-bent.
Negative. So they were pre-bent, but they only went out.
There was no logic to that.
Being shut down.
Yeah, no.
You could fit it in there. You'd have to squeeze their little plastic heads into a tiny little thin piece of thing so they could fit in there.
Out of your fucking mind, dude.
Whatever, man.
First of all, like if you're trying to put like a DDT on, I can't believe we're having this conversation.
I can, and I love it. Keep going.
We haven't had a really neck-beardy conversation in quite some time, but here we go.
2 weeks.
Skeletor. 2 weeks. Put it on a t-shirt, Mindy. Skeletor's head was like soft plastic. You could actually squeeze his head, which means you could absolutely have He-Man giving him a DDT.
I am going to a figure right now.
Go get your He-Man figures.
They're upstairs. Okay? They're in my bedroom.
40-year-old man with 3 children. Go get your He-Man figures, and you can absolutely do it. And don't pull this like OJ shit where you're just like, oh well, it doesn't fit. No, you absolutely can do a DDT with He-Man figures.
All right, so while they weren't as articulated as the G.I. Joe figures, He-Man was good for wrestling, but he was good for your Hulk Hogan style wrestling. Punch, kick, body slam, leg drop.
Are you fucking kidding?
But if you want to get into
you want to do Savage versus Ricky Steamboat, you can't do that with He-Man.
Can we please post this question on Movie Pass fans right now?
Listen, I don't have time.
Can you or can you not do wrestling moves with He-Man figures? What time is Peter Rabbit?
Listen, if you really want to bust out the tinfoil hats, then you post that question because they're like, I don't know, maybe it's a conspiracy theory against people who liked He-Man. They just didn't want him to, them to enjoy, their wrestling moves with He-Man. I'm just saying, if you want a 5-star classic wrestling match, you're going to have to go G.I. Joe.
All right. So, okay, moving on. We got to get to this comic and get the hell out of here.
I kind of like this, but,
This is starting to feel more like a Screaming Boy episode than it is.
This just feels right.
I had more playtime with He-Man. I got one Thundercat in my life, if I remember correctly, and that was Slithe. Someone had bought me Slithe for like Christmas or a birthday present, and I still have that axe. I don't know if I still have the figure, but I still have the axe, and he had the thing on the back where you could use his, you could push down on like one of his little fins or whatever's on the back, and it moves his arm up and down. I only had that one figure, and I think you're right. If I remember correctly, they were a little bit more expensive. I don't know why, but when it came to the cartoon...
That's probably why I didn't have any.
Yeah, when it came to the cartoon, I can remember watching the cartoon at one point in my life. Let's go ahead, just real quick, go over to Google and see when the cartoon ran. Because I want to know. But it was...
knowing is half the battle.
Inquiring minds want to know. I want to know.
I think it was, it had to have been 1988 or 1990 or 1989. Because I was going over to... I was getting dropped off at a babysitter's before I went to school, and they had a satellite dish, and I don't know what channel it was, but every once in a while we would watch Thundercats in the morning. I don't know if it was Disney. I don't think it was Disney. Disney doesn't have anything to do with Thundercats back then, I don't think. But we would catch that in the morning, and I would watch most of... I could barely remember half of what happened in some of the seasons. I know most of the characters. When I read this comic, they were naming the characters, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that guy. I remember that guy. Oh, okay, yeah, I remember that vehicle." Aside from the main characters themselves, they didn't have a lineup like He-Man did when it comes to side characters. In my opinion,
I honestly forgot. I remember Thundercats being a little bit more like Ninja Turtles, where it was essentially Mumm-Ra and 2 henchmen, which I'm vaguely remembering the frog guy that looks like Gollum from the Rankin and Bass cartoon.
Slithe
that was
and the baboon.
Right. And okay, so there's George from Rampage and then Gollum from the Rankin and Bass cartoon.
Yeah.
And and that was kind of every episode. There was like very rarely another bad guy.
Oh, there was another like a hyena too.
Yeah.
So there was 3 of them.
Right here, it's just so funny you say that. Thundercats. This series was originally distributed by Rankin and Bass Productions.
Well, that would make sense because Rankin and Bass was responsible for a lot of my nightmares. And I remember Mumm-Ra. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Thundercats. That was must-see TV. That was appointment television for me. But that beginning where Mumm-Ra turns from like the decrepit mummy into like buff Mumm-Ra was the scariest thing to me on like daytime TV.
Oh yeah, 4 seasons.
The only thing scarier to me when I was a kid was the Incredible Hulk transformation.
The live
Don't
action.
ask why.
That
Yeah,
never
don't
bothered
ask-
me.
Well, of course not.
Dude, I just admitted that like the frog character reminded me of Gollum, which scared the fuck out of me as a kid in the Rankin and Bass cartoons. Okay, you want to also know what scared the shit out of me as a kid? Again, Rankin and Bass, those bastards. The Last Unicorn. You remember this?
Oh, I've never seen this movie, but I know what you're talking about.
I've seen that. I've heard of it.
Okay, so go rent The Last Unicorn. Watch it with your children and scar them for life. Okay, there's a point where there's a talking skeleton who's talking to like Midriff the Wizard or whatever the fuck his name is.
Midriff the Wizard. Holy crap! I really do have to read this.
I'm sorry. His name is Schmendrick. Schmendrick the Wizard.
That's not right either.
No, it is. I'm going to pull up the cast now for The Last Unicorn. In The Last Unicorn, there's a scene
Bucko the Knight in there too.
Bucko the Knight. Last Unicorn film, Rankin and Bass Productions. Horrifying. Yeah, Schmendrick. Alan Arkin as Schmendrick the Magician.
Huh.
Mia Farrow as the Unicorn, or Lamy Almathea. Jeff Bridges was Prince Lear.
Well, no wonder it was terrifying.
Tammy Grimes was Molly Grew. Robert Klein is the Butterfly. Angela Lansbury was Mommy Fortuna. Christopher Lee is King Haggard. Keenan Wynn is Captain Cully. Paul Frees as Mumm-Ra, King Haggard's court magician, who's replaced by Schmendrick. Renee Auberjois as the skull that guards the clock. Okay, so Renee Auberjois fucking scared the piss out of me as a kid. Because there's a point where like where they're trying to get past him. They don't know that Lady Almathea is really a unicorn, and they need the unicorn for King Haggard to like gain his youth back or something. Like they need her horn or whatever it was. And so when the skeleton starts to figure out that Lady Almathea is really a unicorn, he starts screaming, "Haggard, it's a unicorn! Unicorn!" And I piss myself every time. It's so horrifying.
I have not seen that movie.
It is almost as bad as one of the orcs screaming on the staircase in the Return of the King cartoon, "You're just a hobbit. Mash him." Oh my God, I'm scaring myself and I'm 42 years old.
Rankin and Bass.
Wow.
Has had a bad impact.
I am not sleeping tonight. Not without alcohol.
Oh,
Other notable, I'm just going through their wiki here. Animated series by Rankin and Bass. I'll run them down here. Tales of the Wizard of Oz from 1961. King Kong Show, 1966 to 1969. Smokey Bear Show, 69 to 71. The Tomfoolery Show, 1970 to 71. The Reluctant Dragon and Mr. Toad Show, 70 to 71. Jackson 5, 71 to 72. The Osmonds, 1972. Kid Power, 72 to 73. Festival of Family Classics, 72 to 73. And then they take like a big 12-year break and come back with Thundercats. And then another series I've heard of, I don't know if I've watched, Ronnie, Silverhawks. You ever watch any of that?
yeah.
I have no idea. I have no idea what that is. And then it says
the theme.
Okay. All right. The comic strip featuring tiger sharks.
This is going to be a thing now.
It is now. Oh, wow. All right. So, yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of attachment to the Thundercats. Knew about them, knew about the cartoon. I'd seen the figures, but I just didn't.
Dude, Thundercats was the coolest thing ever.
Thundercats.
Yeah, when I was a kid, man, I remember like getting past the sort of frightening imagery and all of it. I remember like there was no cooler TV show on TV when I was in elementary school than the Thundercats, and you were only a cool kid if you watched the Thundercats. So the Thundercats are escaping like their doomed planet, and they all go into hypersleep. And somehow the only one that is able to that aged in the trip was Lion-O. So he's now the king of the Thundercats, and he's in a man's body, but he's actually 12 years old.
Oh, that's mentioned in the comic, and I had no idea about that.
Yeah. Him, WilyKit, and WilyKat are like all the same age.
There it is,
like,
Ronnie.
They're
trying to figure out the names.
I said kit and cat.
You said Kit and Caboodle.
Kit, Caboodle, and Chitty Bang Bang attack. I remember a lot about the Thundercats, believe it or not. You know what my wife was saying the other day? She was like, women and men are so different, and I'm really emblematic of that because like there's just stuff that she watched as a kid and hung on to none of it. Meanwhile, I can sit here and tell you about like the plot elements of Thundercats, and I can't remember to call and make a reservation for fucking brunch.
Here we go. He-Man Thundercats 2016-2017. By Rob David, written by Rob David, which is an author I've not, I don't know if I've ever read. I was expecting this was going to be a Colin Bunn joint for some reason. Was not. Lloyd Goldfine also pitched in on the writing duties and illustrated by Jeremy Caldwell and Freddie Williams II, which I think that's most of the art I think we see in the book is Freddie Williams' stuff. So I'm going to do a big, large synopsis here, ladies and gentlemen, and then we're going to pitch in with our criticisms and our favorite parts here, and then we will take us on out of here. We've had a fun discussion already. Let's get into the book. The ancient spirits of evil are tired of Mumm-Ra and his many failures. They set him on a new task to get a weapon from a distant land, a weapon called the Sword of Power, bringing the two worlds of Third Earth and Eternia within orbit of each other. Now, granted, they are not actually in the same plane of existence, so there's a whole big old thing about that, number one. But anyway, that they merge orbits, and calamity strikes both worlds. And in a battle Calamity. And in a battle with Mumm-Ra, Prince Adam is gravely injured just before turning into an uninjured He-Man.
Yeah, he gets the fuck stabbed out of him of what happened.
Yeah, dude, when they choose to do the
so eloquently put.
When they choose to do the full page, the full page art, oh my goodness, that was one of them where he's getting that the Sword of Power shoved through his chest, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? But in the midst of the duel, Mumm-Ra mysteriously disappears with the Sword of Power and reappears in front of Skeletor, who, with the aid of the ancient spirits of evil, takes the Sword of Power and renders Mumm-Ra into dust.
Ancient spirits of evil, transform this decayed form to Mumm-Ra, the ever-living Haggard.
It's just not as scary anymore.
Mixing said dust into a potion, Skeletor drinks it up and becomes more powerful than ever. Meanwhile, He-Man must stave off an attack from the combined forces of Skeletor's minions and Mumm-Ra's mutants. And while victorious, Skeletor's new life and power turn He-Man back into the dying Prince Adam right in front of his own father. While Skeletor is reveling in his newfound power, a new ally to Eternia arrives to face Skeletor, the Thundercats. A fierce battle ensues, and it is evident that the Thundercats may be outmatched.
On the move. Thundercats are loose. Hear the magic. Feel the roar. Thundercats are loose. Thunder, 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 Thundercats.
Oh, Thundercats may be outmatched until Lion-O has Skeletor see his own reflection in his sword. Skeletor retreats as he realizes that Mumm-Ra, the ever-living, is alive and well inside his own body. And I'll tell you what right now, that sequence where they're talking to each other, and then Mumm-Ra's like having Skeletor poke himself in his eye sockets. That was some funny shit.
That really was. I will have to admit, that was hysterical.
There are some pretty funny moments in this book. And after a brief struggle with himself, they come to an agreement to work together in order to lay siege upon the Castle Grayskull, to seek a way to separate from each other. But in order to do that, they bring to life the giant ancient spirits of evil. So these ancient spirits of evil, which initially we just see voices of, they bring them to life and apparently have some command over them now that they have this, this combined might. And they tell them to attack the city and Castle Grayskull shortly after Prince Adam's funeral. That's right. Prince Adam has been laid to rest. The Thundercats, still on Eternia, resolve to help the Eternians do battle against the Giants, and we get the team up we've all been waiting for. However, Lion-O, in a desperate gambit, takes Prince Adam to Third Earth, back to the very black pyramid Mumm-Ra returns to usually to remain immortal. Lion-O shoves He-Man into this sarcophagus, seals it, but the result is not what Lion-O expected. As a possessed, enraged...
Stop trying to bring back the dead. It never works out well. Didn't we learn anything from Aladdin? The genie says, don't ask me to bring people back from the dead. It never works out well. He doesn't like doing it.
That's right. A possessed, enraged He-Man emerges, immediately going to battle with Lion-O. Their fight wages on until Lion-O uses the sight beyond sight power of his Sword of Omens to show He-Man what lies ahead if Mumm-Ra and Skeletor win. This snaps He-Man out of it, and the two grab Cringer to head back to Eternia to help their friends. The armies of Eternia and the Thundercats join forces to attempt to stop the giant ancient spirits of evil from making their way to Castle Grayskull. During this, another team-up occurs. That of the spirit Jaga, the lord of the Thundercats, and that of the sorceress, He-Man's pal. Their efforts give the forces... I don't know, what else could I say? I want to go with his buddy. Their efforts, she's like the guardian of Castle Grayskull, right? Yes. Sorceress. Okay. So their efforts give the forces of good the strategy they need to bring down the giant ancient spirits of evil. I think they, like Jaga and Sorceress, say, hey, check out these discs, aim for the discs that are on these things and take them out. So that's what all the armies start doing. They start trying to take these things down one by one. When they have thought to be victorious, from out of the sky comes the dreaded Mumm-Ra to lay waste to any that oppose him.
Was silly.
They've come together and they have agreed upon, and they are now this powerful.
This is what you chose was silly in this?
Mumm-Ra.
I mean, not for nothing, but that just screamed like the writer of this is at home one day and he's watching his kids play with his toys, and like the kid totally came up with that. This is also the same kid who pitched Monster Trucks, the movie with trucks run by monsters.
Well, when you look at these two franchises, there are similarities, clearly. You've got the hero, you've got the sword, you've got the spirit, you've got the villain, and then when you get tasked with the fact when you get tasked to combine the two properties, well, we're going to do that, and then I'm going to actually combine two properties into one and get there, ergo Mumm-Ra. Mumm-Ra lays waste to any that oppose him here. As Lion-O and He-Man finally arrive, it is evident that Mumm-Ra has made his way into Castle Grayskull after nearly destroying the forces for Eternia. Finding Mumm-Ra, he boasts about having the Orb of Power. Okay, there's a Sword of Power, there's an Orb of Power, which is apparently in the middle of I think it controls like all these realities. Now, you want to talk about silly, Mark. This is probably where I figure you're thinking things are probably going to go off the rail. The Orb of Power, which is the nexus of all realities, is now asking for He-Man to give up the Sword of Power. Lion-O and He-Man scheme to lose Mumm-Ra in one of the many realities and proceed to do battle throughout the multiverse, peering in on realities as they fight. Some good, some bad, some DC.
Yes, this was the Brian and Stewie in time.
Yeah.
As Mumm-Ra opens a gate to let the hordes of villains in to fight He-Man and Lion-O, the Sorceress steps in to help, allowing a flood of Eternians and the other Thundercats to join in the battle. We got this humongous battle going on where if I would have had all of He-Man toys and all of the Thundercats toys, this battle's taking place on my bedroom floor. That's for sure. The combination of power from He-Man's Sword of Power and Lion-O's Sword of Omens, combined together, they are able to banish Mumm-Ra and shortly thereafter celebrate a quick victory and return to their homes, and also return their homes to their respective dimensions in the multiverse. But remember, as long as evil exists, Mark Radulich,
So does Mumm-Ra.
Mumm-Ra lives. That's right. All right, there we go. That is my 10-minute, 5-minute synopsis there. I'll turn over to you, Mark Radulich. Let's start with our criticisms, and we'll end it with our favorite parts. Okay, criticisms first. You got anything you want to say that you didn't like about this book?
No, I enjoyed this book. I guess if I have to come up with a criticism, I think at times it was a little needlessly convoluted, a little needlessly complex, but not enough to where it didn't get into wacky Raceland territory.
Yeah.
You know, I could still follow what was happening more or less, and that's really all I care about. I really love this story. I mean, it's total it's total like little kid cheese.
It is. It really is. If you have these figures, you're doing this. You come up with a plot. This is this is a little Mark Radulich who's got the pen and the paper to script himself a movie. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's what I enjoyed about it. It was again, we've talked in the past about how in certain comic book stories it takes itself a little too seriously. No, this was just them having here's two properties that don't get a lot of play, and the Thundercats have never been in the movies, and He-Man had one movie and it sucked, and let's not talk about it. So here's an opportunity to really play with these franchises and just do something fun with them. And I really like that. I like the fact that they came up with a fairly simple enough storyline. It's Mumm-Ra's a fuck up, and they the ancient spirits of evil decide, you know what? Let's give this guy Skeletor a chance because he hasn't fucked up a lot, which is weird.
Nah, they're clearly misinformed.
Yeah, they got bad intel. But beyond that,
boob. Sorry.
But and it was
they
fun.
didn't say boob a lot.
It was fun to see the interplay between Skeletor and Mumm-Ra and all of these different characters. So I really enjoyed it. They took some chances, stabbing He-Man right at the beginning of the book.
Oh yeah, dude.
Really took me by surprise. It was probably like the most adult thing in the book. The rest of it is we talked about Infinity War, and we're going to review that movie in full tomorrow with some guests that we're going to have on. But there's definitely it reminded me of that sort of Marvel style of disparate characters getting together and quipping at one another.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun. It was a light, breezy, easy read.
You talk about some of the adult parts of this book. That was clearly the most, the bloodiest, the goriest of what we saw. But there was the fight between Skeletor and Lino, where Lino about lost his eye. That was up there. I think that battle right there. They weren't shy about shedding blood.
The violence
guts.
wasn't shy. Yeah, the violence was definitely there.
Yeah,
you got Lino, his grizzled scar through most of the book. Down his his left eye there.
No, you're fine. I was sitting there thinking about some of the other parts in that book. Some of it has a bit of a lasting effect on the universes. Well, I guess definitely the universe of Eternia, where now, hey, guess what? Prince Adam, his father, knows that he's He-Man. And, that was probably one of the lasting effects from this book that I thought, well, they came out of this battle, and it seemed like it was pretty significant. Now, as to whether that falls in continuity, I doubt it does, because this is one of those crossovers that's just meant as a one-shot. Probably doesn't affect anything else, I would assume. Right when they were doing their universe reality hopping or whatever, they kind of played with him.
I love that, by the way. I don't know if you've ever how much Fantastic Four you read, but there was a Fantastic Four issue where Doom and Reed fight throughout time.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just travel through time and space fighting each other. And there was a lot of really cool imagery. The issue itself was pretty fun, and I liked, and it was definitely a total like Brian and Stewie thing, where like they show up in like different universes, like it's just like love it, hate it, moving on. Next one, love it, hate it, moving on. It was just a lot of that. And again, I thought it was fun that they had a sense of humor about this and they didn't take it super serial.
Mm-hmm. Ronnie, what's your criticisms? What's your favorite parts?
At times it was a little too jokey to have the violence in there, just at times. But I liked it because of like Mark said, it didn't take itself too seriously at all. But then there was you had the blood and the violence, and Lino stabs He-Man in the side, and then Lino turns Cringer / Battlecat into this ferocious half Thundercat, half whatever he is.
That's my favorite. That's one of my favorite parts.
That was incredible.
Dude, Cringer looked cool as shit.
Yeah. I was like, the only way that could happen was the fact that Cringer was on Third Earth, and he was able to use that sword and unleash that Thundercat in him. I thought that was pretty cool. He took off and he like whipped. I don't know if it was a combined force. I think it was Skeletor's force, or maybe it was the Plundarians. I can't remember, but
I think it was the Plundarians. But he was ripping through them and biting them, and blood flowing. I was like, daggone.
Yeah.
And then you had some, like what Jesse pointed out the other night, some of the sound effects,
Oh, dude.
Like when they're working on that giant laser or whatever, and they're using a ratchet to tighten something, the sound effect is literally ratchet.
Good shit.
That's wonderful. Anything else on there, Ronnie
Art
Adams?
was really good too.
Yeah, I don't think the art was half bad at all.
No.
This guy, Freddie Williams, I think is Freddie E. Williams, as a matter of fact, I believe is his name. Yeah, I enjoyed every bit of it. I thought it was.
You know what else I liked? I like Teela and Cheetah.
Cheetara?
Yeah, I think the sort of the girl power, playing back and forth off each other. I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when you get your team ups, that's a blast. I think it was Panthro and
Tygra and Man at Arms.
Yep, sitting there talking about how to upgrade this technology. Orko was a blast in this.
Orko and Snarf.
He kept screwing things up. Oh man, it was great. And
Gosh, there's so many parallels in these. I never really realized that. Yeah, and I mean, and the fact that they used a little more adult language in this. It was weird, but it kind of matched. And the whole, like I said, it was hysterical. But the whole Mumm-Ra making Skeletor poke himself in the eyes, it was very Sam Raimi, Evil Dead, Army of Darkness there. And then I really, really, really enjoyed seeing all the different He-Man characters that they brought out the big guns for this.
Yeah, they brought out the Spanish Bumblebee from The Simpsons.
Spanish Bumblebee.
It's Buzz Off, man.
Oh, okay. Well, definitely Eternia had the place. I think that's probably why they had to do the battle on Eternia.
Lobster claws for some reason.
Everybody was, so many characters were on Eternia compared to the Thundercats. Again, it seemed like it was very limited when it came to the amount of characters that they could work with there. But yeah, so I just brought up the panels here that you were talking about where he's grabbing himself, choking himself, punching him in the face, poking himself in the eye.
And Prince Adam as Clark Kent.
Oh my God, I laughed my ass off. In the alternate universe where he stayed on Earth, he was basically Superman. That was funny as shit, dude. I want to see that in a real comic now.
And I didn't realize that was in there. I forgot that was in there when I made the Clark Kent Superman comparison to.
Yeah, it's pretty apt, man. I mean, it's definitely.
And you got Cheetila and Hio and
at the end,
Panthro and Arms. Yeah,
everybody's combined.
Jagras. Snarfo. And he just jams the sword of, the sword of power through Skeletor's chest, or what was it, Mummator? He jams it through Mummator's chest, and there's blood everywhere. And if I could find one complaint with this, it was almost like it didn't know where it wanted to go. Whether it was wanted to be funny and jokey for the kids or a little more adult, with the blood and the stabby.
Well, everybody that remembers these franchises are as old as we are, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking 30-year-old.
He-Man was 83.
Yeah, 35, dude.
So he's 35 years old. They actually said that to get him on air as a cartoon, He-Man could not use his sword against any living being.
Wow.
And he couldn't punch or anything. That's why he always threw things. He threw rocks. He threw people. He threw castles and everything else. I remember him lifting up Castle Grayskull one time. But he just threw things constantly. It was like an epidemic with him. He just picked things up and threw it. If you notice, look at it. Like he punched like the Hordak's robots and things like that, but he never raised a hand in offense to anything living.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like G.I. Joe never killed anybody with their guns. They always shot around and laid down cover fire, but nobody ever got shot until the movie. And then, Duke went into a coma like 16 times. And, Duke was always he's forever going into comas. It was kind of sad. But then, the show Community played off that. And they did a whole animated show where Joel was in the hospital. The main character, Joel, Jeff was his name in the show, and he was dreaming that he and his friends in his study group were part of the G.I. Joe. And he was dressed as Duke, and Allison Brie was Lady J, and all this stuff. But he said, they said, "Oh no, Cobra's attacking," and Jeff was like, "I'll take care of this," and he just starts laying dudes out, like shooting them in the chest and the head and stuff. Like, what are you doing? We don't kill people, and they put him on trial for killing.
I feel like we talked about this once we did. Yeah, and I brought up the robot chicken thing where it was always fumbles.
yeah. But it's just it's so different. It's kind of refreshing to see. I mean, if you got a sword, more chances are if somebody's trying to use it, they're going to jam it through somebody's chest.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of using it to make glass in the desert.
Maybe that was the reason they did that in that first issue. Shortly thereafter, this is like, hey, look, this is the direction our comic's going to go. There's going to be consequences. Yeah. A sword is going to hurt somebody, and we're not playing by the rules of the show.
In defense, though, of the producers of this show, let us remember that this was supposed to be an animated after-school cartoon for little kids.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, you really can't expect it to be like fucking Dragon Ball Z or some shit.
Oh, I don't have anything against it. I just remember being a kid and seeing He-Man. It wasn't a sword, but he moved his hands so super quick on the sand that he made glass. And he made four panes of glass and trapped a giant scorpion in it that was trying to kill them. And I'm like, just stab it, dude. It's a giant scorpion. Nobody cares.
He-Man was using science because he's not just a dumb blonde.
Screw science. Jam the sword through the thing's head and be done with it.
Okay.
Hey, just as an aside, I thought it was neat that He-Man got the Eternia Championship belt from his dad.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of a thing there towards the end. And did you guys get the sense that He-Man was a little bit more powerful than Lion-O in this book?
Very much so.
Yeah, okay. I was just wondering.
Lion-O was smarter. But look, they were a classic tag team. Lion-O was the Bret the Hitman Hart, and He-Man was Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Good comparison. Well, wait. Are you dissenting, Ronnie Adams? Are you okay with that or not?
I just think he's smarter than Jim the Anvil.
Well,
All right. Can we have? We've already had our neckbeard limit tonight. Let's stop while we're ahead.
There is no limits on the neckbeardiness. We're on a comic podcast, for goodness sakes.
I'm really considering renaming this entire network to the Neckbeard fucking broadcast network.
Neckbeard.
Please do. I will be your number one fan. I mean, I already am, kind of.
Hey, look at that, Ronnie Adams.
Ronnie, I will change the Rattleton Broadcasting Network to the Neckbeard Broadcasting Network when you get your shows up in a timely fashion.
Hey, Mark.
Go fuck yourself.
My shows have nothing to do with what you name your network.
Well, I don't have really much else to say. Mark, you said you enjoyed it. You had a good time.
Yeah.
Right.
It was, look, every week we come on here and it's like, well, what are we synergizing with this week? It was fun just to read a book just for the hell of it.
Yeah. Ronnie, how about you, man? Do you enjoy yourself?
I mean, it was pretty good. Yeah, I enjoyed reading it. Like I said, at times I felt it struggled to really know what it was all about, but I mean, I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I read this when it came out. I mean, I collected it issue by issue.
Oh yeah, okay, nice. Well, this is a story that I think was a pretty easy read too. It wasn't bogged down. You didn't have a wall of text, and the art. You let the art speak for itself sometimes, and it was beautiful.
It wasn't a Kevin Smith book, that's for sure.
All right, well, let's get on out of here. This was a fun story to talk about. I'm glad we got the chance to read it and talk about it here on the show. Mark Radulich, I guess what I will do right now is turn it over to plugs for you, sir. What do we got coming up?
All right. So when this airs, That same week, we'll be doing an on trial for Battleships, which would, if you're listening to this when this airs on the Red Legend Broadcasting Network, then tomorrow is May 8th. And again, on trial, the movie Battleship. Marvel, as I try to defend this movie.
I've not seen it, but I've heard so much shit about it.
On the Metal Hammer.
The bombs that they fire are like, they look like the pegs in Battleship.
Nice.
No way.
Swear to you.
Oh, come on, dude.
I swears it.
He swears it.
On the Metal Hammer of Doom, we're going to be listening to Ronnie Adams' new favorite album of 2018, Mindfucker.
Please stop. People are going to believe you.
I hope so.
No.
If you're listening to
I have
this,
a reputation.
if you're listening, and I'm here to help your reputation get better.
But saying I listen to crappy music?
Oh, Monster Magnet's a good band. If you're listening to this on Jesse's YouTube page, then tomorrow is May 1st, and we'll be reviewing Avengers Infinity War. The line of people trying to get onto this show to talk about it with us is now forming to the left. We're gonna have from our Canadian office, a friend of the show, David Wright, will be on to discuss it. And because lately, this network has gotten a little too neckbeardy, it's time to let some estrogen in. We're going to have Alexis.
Hey. All right.
Can I just say that I hate that? I love you, Mark, but you butchered that poor lady's name every time.
Why do you hate Alexis?
I don't hate her. Why do you twist my words, you devil man?
Yeah.
Leave her alone. She's a perfectly lovely woman.
So, okay.
Alexis, I don't hate you. You are a lovely woman. I'm just saying that he butchers your name.
I would have made a play to be on that show if I would have seen it in Movie Pass. Wouldn't have pissed me off.
Oh, here we go again.
No, I got mine out last night. I'm
Tune in to my show, the Screaming Boy Network, Screaming Boy Podcast, where we talk about what happened to Movie Pass. We'll be out here on the Radio Legend Broadcasting Network has first dibs at this at the unrated, uncut director's version of it. It will be out, and then I will put it out on my network, my show, whatever, not network. I don't have a network. I will put it out on Screaming Boys, iTunes, TuneIn, and Stitcher shortly thereafter. We also talked about, the rise and fall of Toys R Us. And
what do you think of that, Mark? Fuck your plugs, man.
Yeah, really. Ronnie just T-boned me and decided that he was going to climb on the hood and just start.
You take too long. I just thought it was a good segue. It was seamless.
This is like a segue. You call okay. All right, continue.
I call it a raping, but okay, sure.
Follow us on Twitter at Screwboy PR, Instagram Screwboy Podcast. Look us up on Facebook, Screwboy Podcast. Screwboy Podcast. Ivan. Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
What time is Peter Rabbit playing?
Oh boy. What else, Mark? What else?
Are you chewing on a cigar? What are you doing?
Yeah, see?
See, I want to know what's going on the network, see?
Again, if you're listening to this live, tomorrow is May 1st. The day after that is May 2nd because things follow linearly. Get it? Sequentially. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. Metal Hammer of Doom will be looking at the new Godsmack when Legends Rise. And then finally because listen, I'm always willing to do a podcast and get it up in a timely fashion.
Oh, Mike, you're
and so Pat
complain about you get first dibs at mine.
So Pat Mullen says to me, he says, "Hey, listen, I was a huge fan of the Bruno Sammartino, and I want to talk about it. So we're going to remember Bruno Sammartino this Thursday night. I'm going to work a rare Thursday, lucky me, and we're going to remember Bruno Sammartino. We're going to talk about his legacy in the world of wrestling, and then we're going to commentate on one of his matches, specifically one of his matches against superstar Billy Graham at the MSG, the pinnacle of sports entertainment, Madison Square Garden." All right, so that's all I got for now.
Hey, what was Bruno's finisher? Was it a suplex?
It might have been a DDT that he did on Skeletor.
But if you want to put on a 5-star classic, I'm just saying, G.I. Joes are neat.
Break out them G.I. Joes.
Oh my goodness!
Now, if you wanted to put on like
there are conversations that I knew we were going to have tonight, and then there were conversations that were not on the agenda. And DDTing with He-Man figures was not on the agenda.
I want to see if, like, did you grab one of your He-Mans that your children didn't break yet and, like, try to demonstrate what I'm trying to tell you?
it's totally doable, but to bend him over to get him in
You've got to
DDT
suspend
position,
a lot of disbelief.
You have to make him bow-legged.
It's fucking toys, dude. What are you, like, shooting a movie? Oh, this isn't believable. We got to get the CGI in here.
Well, go give the Rattlich and Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer.
Don't.
Let us know.
Face about it.
Might just be a poll that shows up either on the network or on the which DDT's better. Picture of He-Man and a picture of G.I. Joe. We'll just see. Be like 3 votes, then somebody like 5 comments, 9 dislikes.
If you want to get the best wrestling match, you have to go with the Marvel Classics. With the 30 points, the 30 points of articulation.
Yes, we're nerds and we're making fun of nerds. That's
but please, really do go give the Rattlich Broadcasting a like on Facebook. I was kidding.
Do it now, and we can all.
Yvonne,
do it,
Yvonne.
We have had fun conversations here in the past few weeks. I think some of my favorite that are going up on the YouTube channel for source material are our arcade commentaries, where we just discussed. We did a playthrough of we commentated on a playthrough for the Simpsons arcade game. So check that out. We got a few other ones on there where me and Ronnie talked about Wolverine's playthrough for the Marvel Superheroes arcade game. Lots of fun, and look forward to a few more of those.
Overpowered.
Yeah, clearly. And it ties in with this Infinity Gauntlet week Infinity War week pretty well. But, all right, other than that, you can follow me at Stiznarkey on Twitter, at SourceMattCast on Twitter as well. My name's Jesse Starcher. That's Mark Rattlich.
Can I take us out?
Absolutely, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Source Material Podcast. And remember the most important thing. Brunch is between breakfast and lunch. The optimal time is 11 a.m.
And I really, if somebody could tweet me and let me know what time Peter Rabbit is playing, I would appreciate it.
I'm looking for the Star Wars playset that you're talking about because I'm trying to find it.
It was actually just a Kleenex box and those 2 figures. That is
his imagination.
In imagination. He thought it was real.
Klaatu Niktu.
At 8D8.
Gesundheit.
He's trying to summon some demons.
How was your podcast tonight, Jesse? I don't want to hear the word brunch anymore. I can tell you that much. Because it's fucking brunch. It's fucking brunch, dude. It's between breakfast
and lunch.
Lunch. Yeah. Fucking brunch. Okay?
Is it brunch? I'm not sure if it's brunch.
If it's too early, it's fucking breakfast. It's too late.
Or in the lunchtime. Yeah.
Fucking brunch. If you have an idea of what it is you want to do, since it's about you, then you fucking come up with the plan.
You're a good son, Mark Rattlich. That's all I gotta say. Is I'm not trying to make fucking reservations and go somewhere. I'll fucking take her to Captain D's.
So the problem is not that you don't sympathize. It's just like, I don't know what you're whining about, Rattlich. I wouldn't do this shit in the first place.
Exactly.
I don't know. You guys are the ones that
live on the Source Material Podcast. Mark Rattlich.
God, he even schedules his real life on the podcast. Jeez. His dad actually calls him Bubula. This is just good stuff. I want to hear this.
Oh, it's too early.
It's too early. I don't want to eat that early Bubula.
I'm muting him. I gotta mute him. All right.
No.
Can we talk about fucking brunch?
No, I'd rather not, sir. It sounds like it's going to be a great Mother's Day dinner.
I'm going to be just.
No, wait a second. Brunch?
It's fucking brunch, dude. It's fucking get it together. It's fucking brunch. This podcast is brought to you by fucking brunch.
Brunch, baby. Brunch. It's what's for dinner.
Required listening with Amazon Music.
Dad music again?
The greatest guitarist of all time.
Wait, who?
Alexa, add this song to a new playlist.
Sure, what's the new playlist name?
Jack's Intro to Classic Rock.
Adding Stepping Stone by Jimi Hendrix to Jack's Intro to Classic Rock playlist.
Amazon Music, the simplest way to listen to the music you and soon he will love. New customers start your 30-day free trial at AmazonMusic.com. Renews automatically, cancel anytime.